The starship hummed softly as Krell prepared for his descent to the blue planet. His mission was clear: observe the dominant species called humans and report back findings that would help the upcoming invasion. As the scout of the mighty Drex Empire, he carried the weight of responsibility on his 4 shoulders. Remember, Commander Vex had told him during the final briefing, these humans appear physically inferior. Your task is to confirm this weakness and identify the best invasion points. Krell's pod separated from the mothership, its advanced cloaking technology activating immediately. The small craft entered Earth's atmosphere with minimal turbulence, heading toward a predetermined landing zone in a densely forested area far from major human settlements. The landing was perfect. Krell emerged from his pod and immediately began setting up his observation post. His gray skin shifted colors slightly, adapting to the forest environment as a backup to his technological camouflage. The scout worked methodically, setting up monitoring equipment and establishing a secure communication link to the mothership. Base established, Krell reported, beginning preliminary observations. From his hidden position high in the trees, Krell had an excellent view of a small town at the forest edge. Through his advanced optical enhancers, he could see humans going about their daily activities. They seemed so fragile compared to his own species: no protective exoskeleton, limited physical strength, and completely unaware of the universe beyond their little world. On his 3rd day of observation, Krell noticed a particular human who frequently entered the forest. This human wore a green uniform and moved with purpose, often stopping to examine plants or animal tracks. According to information intercepts, this human was called Jack, a forest ranger tasked with protecting this natural area. Jack fascinated Krell. While other humans avoided the deeper parts of the forest, Jack seemed drawn to them. He carried simple tools and appeared to be mapping the area systematically. This behavior was unexpected. The briefing had described humans as fearful of unknown territories. One morning, Krell observed Jack talking into a small device while pointing toward the very section of forest where the observation post was hidden. The alien's hearts beat faster. Had he been detected somehow? Impossible. His technology was centuries beyond anything humans possessed. Yet Jack's behavior suggested otherwise. The human began marking trees with bright orange tape, creating a perimeter that came uncomfortably close to Krell's position. Observation subject displaying unusual awareness, Krell noted in his daily report. Recommend shifting observation post location as precaution. That night, under cover of darkness, Krell carefully moved his equipment to a new location deeper in the forest. The rain that had begun to fall was perfect cover for his activities. However, in his haste to relocate before dawn, Krell accidentally damaged a section of vegetation, leaving behind a pattern of broken branches that looked distinctly unnatural. The next morning, Jack arrived earlier than usual. He moved directly to the area Krell had abandoned, as if drawn by some unseen force. The human's face changed expression when he discovered the damaged vegetation. Jack knelt down, touching the broken branches and examining the unusual pattern. Krell watched from his new position, a feeling of unease growing within him. How had the human known to check this specific area? Was it mere coincidence or something more? Jack pulled out his communication device and spoke urgently. Though Krell's translator couldn't catch all the words, he understood enough. Something's been here, and whatever it is, it's watching us. For the first time since beginning his mission, Krell felt something unexpected. Doubt. Perhaps humans weren't as simple as the Empire believed. Perhaps they possessed senses or abilities that the Drex had overlooked. As Jack continued his methodical search of the area, Krell realized his mission had suddenly become much more complicated. 3 days had passed since Jack discovered the strange disturbance in the forest. Krell remained hidden in his new observation post, but the ease he had felt during the first days of his mission was gone. Something had changed in the human's behavior. Jack no longer walked the forest paths casually. His movements were deliberate, his eyes constantly scanning the treetops and undergrowth. Most concerning to Krell was the small black device Jack now carried, something the scout had not seen in his previous observations. Subject appears to be using some form of detection equipment, Krell reported to his superiors. Primitive design, but purpose unknown. The response from command was immediate. Continue mission. Human technology poses no threat to your stealth systems. But Krell wasn't so sure. That morning, Jack had stopped directly beneath his observation post and stood perfectly still for nearly 10 minutes, just listening. The human's eyes had swept across the canopy, pausing briefly at the exact spot where Krell was hidden. Only the scout's complete stillness had prevented detection. On the 6th day, Jack brought another human with him. This one wore different clothing, dark blue with shiny badges. They spoke in low voices as Jack pointed to different areas of the forest. Krell activated his audio enhancers. "I'm telling you, Tom, something's out here," Jack said. "The broken branches weren't from any animal I know. And look at this." He showed the other human something on his small device. Tom squinted at the screen. Could be interference. These machines aren't perfect. For 3 straight days, in the exact same pattern, moving through the forest. Jack shook his head. Whatever it is, it's smart, and it doesn't want to be found. Krell's upper heart skipped a beat. His stealth field was supposed to block all Earth technology. How was this simple device detecting anything? That night, Krell decided to move again. The humans were getting too close, asking too many questions. He needed a better position, one that would allow him to observe without risk of discovery. Under the cover of darkness, he carefully disassembled his equipment. The forest was quiet except for the occasional hoot of an owl or rustle of small nocturnal creatures. Perfect conditions for relocation. As Krell moved through the trees, a sudden flash of light froze him in place. Down on the forest floor, about 50 meters away, was Jack. The human was alone, wearing a headlamp that cast a narrow beam through the darkness. What was a human doing in the forest at night? According to all their intelligence, humans had poor night vision and avoided darkness when possible. Krell remained absolutely still, his camouflage system adjusting to the new light source. He watched as Jack methodically swept the area, occasionally stopping to check his device or make notes. This wasn't random. The human was searching with purpose and strategy. When Jack finally left the area, Krell rushed to complete his relocation. In his haste, he dislodged a small communication relay from his pack. The tiny device fell silently through the branches and landed on the soft forest floor. By morning, Krell had established his new observation post and was ready to continue his mission. He ran a system check and felt a jolt of alarm. One relay was missing. The tracking function showed it was back at his previous position. Just as this realization hit, his sensors detected movement. Jack had returned, and he wasn't alone. 5 humans now spread out through the forest in a search pattern. Each carried the same strange device, sweeping it back and forth. Krell watched in growing dread as one of the humans stopped suddenly, looking down at their device. The human knelt and picked something up from the ground. It was the missing relay. The human called out to Jack, who hurried over. They examined the alien technology with obvious excitement. Jack pulled out another device and took images of the relay from every angle. "Command," Krell transmitted urgently. "I have been compromised. The humans have recovered Drek's technology." The response was cold. "Mission continues, Scout Krell. Observation is now priority level 1. Do not abort." Krell's skin darkened with stress as he watched the humans below. They were no longer random subjects for observation. They were hunters, and he was the prey. The small metal object sat in the center of the table, reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights of the police station's back room. Jack and Tom stood over it, along with 3 other people: Chief Wilson from local law enforcement, Dr. Reed from the university's engineering department, and Agent Miller, who had arrived just hours after Tom made a call to his military contacts. "So you're telling me this isn't from any known manufacturer?" Chief Wilson asked, poking the relay with the tip of his pen. Not even close, Dr. Reed replied, adjusting her glasses. The materials alone. I've never seen an alloy like this. And the internal components. They're beyond anything we currently have. Jack had barely slept since finding the device. I told you something was out there. This proves it. Agent Miller, who had said very little since arriving, finally spoke. We need to keep this quiet. No reports, no phone calls, nothing digital about this object. He looked at each person in turn. As of now, this is a matter of national security. The room fell silent until Tom cleared his throat. So what's the plan? We find whatever dropped this, Jack said firmly. It's still out there. I can feel it. Agent Miller nodded. My team is already setting up a perimeter around the forest. We'll establish a command center by nightfall. Back in the forest, Krell was growing increasingly anxious. The humans had organized quickly, too quickly. His instruments detected new energy signatures throughout the forest. Communication devices, motion sensors, and other equipment he couldn't identify. He sent another update to command. Humans displaying advanced response capabilities, suspected military involvement. The reply was immediate. Collect all possible data on their methods and technology. This is valuable invasion intelligence. Krell wanted to argue but knew it was pointless. The mission would continue. By midday, vehicles had arrived at the forest edge. Humans in various uniforms unloaded equipment and began establishing a systematic search grid. Jack led one team, using his knowledge of the forest to guide them. Remember, Jack told his group, whatever we're looking for is smart. It moves, it hides, and it has technology we don't understand. Stay alert and keep your sensors active. Krell observed all of this through his long-range viewers. The humans were organized and methodical, not at all like the chaotic, fear-driven creatures described in the Empire's reports. As the sun began to set, Krell noticed something concerning. The search pattern wasn't random. The humans were gradually closing in on his location, tightening their search area with each pass. Impossible, he muttered to himself. His stealth systems were active. There was no way they could track him. Unless Krell checked his equipment and discovered the horrifying truth. The missing relay wasn't just a communication device. It had synchronized with his primary systems. The humans weren't tracking random signals. They were following the specific frequency link between the relay and his equipment. They were tracking him directly. Krell had to make a difficult decision. Standard protocol required maintaining the observation post, but staying put would lead to certain capture. He needed to move, and quickly. As darkness fell, Krell began carefully disassembling his observation post. He would leave the heavier equipment behind and take only what was essential for completing his mission. Just as he finished packing, his sensors alerted him to movement nearby. Through the trees, he could see the dim glow of lights. The humans were conducting night searches now, something completely unexpected based on their supposed limitations. Jack's voice carried through the quiet forest. The signal's getting stronger. It's close. Krell froze, clutching his pack. The humans were less than 100 meters away and closing rapidly. The hunt had truly begun, and for the first time in his career as a scout, Krell wasn't certain who was the superior predator. Krell moved swiftly through the night forest, his specialized limbs designed for both speed and silence. According to all Drek's intelligence, humans should have been blind in this darkness, their weak senses unable to track him. Yet somehow, they followed. The alien paused on a high branch, his breathing rapid from exertion. He had been moving continuously for 6 hours, changing direction, crossing water, using every evasion technique in the Scout Handbook. Still, whenever he stopped to rest, the lights of the human search party would appear in the distance. "How?" he whispered to himself. As if in answer, his sensor picked up a new sound: dogs barking. The humans had brought animals to aid their search. Krell's briefing had mentioned these creatures but classified them as simple pets, not tactical assets. Another miscalculation. Krell activated his long-range viewer and focused on the approaching humans. Jack was at the front, moving with surprising speed through difficult terrain. Behind him came Tom and several others, all wearing night vision equipment. They showed no signs of fatigue despite the hour and the challenging conditions. "Command," Krell transmitted, "humans demonstrating unexpected physical endurance. Search has continued without pause for over 6 hours in difficult terrain and darkness." The reply came after a delay. "Noted. Continue observation. Avoid capture." Easy for them to say, Krell thought bitterly. He needed to reach higher ground. The mountain ridge to the north would provide better vantage points and possibly disrupt whatever method they were using to track him. Krell began moving again, pushing his body to its limits. By dawn, Krell had reached the rocky slopes of the mountain. The sun rose over the forest, revealing the vast expanse he had traveled during the night. Looking back, he expected to see the humans far behind. They weren't. Jack and a smaller team were already beginning the ascent, having matched his pace through the night. They moved differently now, more carefully, deliberately. Jack frequently stopped to examine the ground and rocks. Krell realized with shock that the human was tracking him the old way, without technology, using only signs Krell had left behind. Small displaced stones, bent vegetation, minute traces that should have been imperceptible to human senses. This couldn't be right. The Empire's extensive studies had shown humans to be observationally deficient compared to Drex. Yet here was clear evidence to the contrary. Krell continued upward, finding a sheltered position among the rocks where he could rest briefly while maintaining surveillance. He needed to gather more data. His mission was still the priority despite the danger. Through his viewer, Krell observed Jack conferring with Tom. They pointed in different directions, consulted a map, and then did something unexpected. They split up. 2 teams, moving to flank the mountain from both sides. Basic tactical encirclement, a hunter's strategy. As the morning progressed, Krell witnessed more behaviors that contradicted the Empire's intelligence. The humans conserved water, shared limited food supplies, and maintained constant communication while using minimal energy. When one team member began showing signs of fatigue, others immediately redistributed the equipment load. They functioned not as individuals but as a coordinated unit, adapting to challenges with remarkable efficiency. By midday, Krell had to acknowledge a disturbing reality. He was witnessing qualities in humans that the Empire had either missed or deliberately ignored. Their endurance, adaptability, and tactical thinking were all far beyond what he had been led to expect. His communication device chimed softly, indicating a scheduled report time. "Command," Krell transmitted, requesting urgent reassessment of invasion plans. "Humans displaying multiple capabilities that contradict our intelligence." "Recommend." A sharp crack interrupted him as a stone fell nearby. Krell turned to see Jack standing less than 20 meters away, eyes locked directly on Krell's position. "I see you," the human said simply. For a moment, neither moved. Then Krell's training took over, and he fled deeper into the mountains, knowing with growing certainty that these humans were not what they seemed, and neither was this mission. The mountain's eastern face offered little cover as Krell scrambled upward. Jack's voice echoed behind him, calling to the other search teams through his communication device. "Contact confirmed. Moving northeast up the ridge. All teams converge on my position." Krell's specialized limbs found purchase on the rocky surface, allowing him to climb faster than any human could follow. At least that's what he believed until a glance backward showed Jack keeping pace, moving with surprising agility over the difficult terrain. "This isn't possible," Krell muttered. The human should have fallen behind by now. Reaching a narrow ledge, Krell paused to assess his options. The mountain rose sharply above, while below he could see multiple teams of humans approaching from different directions. They had coordinated their movements perfectly, cutting off his escape routes one by one. His sensor device beeped urgently, detecting new signals. Krell checked the reading and felt his heart sink. Flying machines, small drones, were now circling the mountain. The humans had deployed aerial surveillance. Command, he transmitted, situation critical. Humans utilizing multi-level search strategies. Ground teams, tracking animals, and aerial support. The response was delayed, then finally came through. Priority update. Collect maximum tactical data before extraction. Your mission is now intelligence gathering on human combat capabilities. Krell stared at the message in disbelief. They wanted him to allow himself to be captured. For data. A pebble skittered down from above. Krell looked up to see another human team had somehow reached a position higher on the mountain. They had anticipated his climb and moved to cut him off. Krell had only one option left. The western face of the mountain was too steep for the humans to climb easily. If he could reach it, he might still escape. Moving with renewed urgency, Krell traversed the ledge, making his way toward the western slope. He reached a gap in the path, too wide for a human to jump safely. Krell easily leaped across and continued, feeling a momentary sense of relief. That feeling vanished when he reached the western face. Below him, spread across the slope, was a complex arrangement of equipment. Nets, sensors, and strange devices he didn't recognize formed a carefully arranged pattern. It was a trap, and he had walked directly into it. Even as this realization hit, Krell heard a mechanical whine. The devices activated simultaneously, creating an energy field that disrupted his camouflage system. Krell felt the familiar tingle of his skin as the adaptive coloration failed, revealing his true form. Command. He transmitted urgently. Humans have technology capable of disrupting our stealth systems. Repeat, humans can. The net fired before he could finish, enveloping him in a mesh of surprisingly strong material. Krell struggled, but the more he moved, the tighter the net became. From his position, Krell could see Jack and Tom approaching cautiously, their expressions a mixture of awe and determination. Behind them came Agent Miller and several others wearing different uniforms. Military specialists, Krell realized. Incredible, Jack breathed, staring directly at Krell. We were right. Agent Miller stepped forward. Secure the area. No one approaches without clearance, and get the containment unit up here immediately. Tom couldn't stop staring. How did you know it would come this way, Jack? Jack's eyes never left Krell. Because it's what I would have done. The western face was the only logical escape route. It just didn't know we were counting on that. The realization hit Krell with stunning clarity. The humans hadn't been following him. They had been hurting him, manipulating his movements toward this precise location. Every search team, every tracking method, had been part of an elaborate strategy to drive him exactly where they wanted him. They had outthought him completely. As the humans approached with their containment equipment, Krell managed one final transmission, activating his emergency beacon. The signal would reach the mothership orbiting beyond Earth's moon, alerting the Empire to both his capture and the disturbing truth. Humans were not the primitive creatures they had been led to believe. They were something far more dangerous. The room was bright and sterile. Krell sat inside a transparent enclosure that neutralized his remaining technology. 3 days had passed since his capture, and the humans had transported him to an underground facility deep beneath the mountains. Good morning, Jack said as he entered the room. He carried a tray with various Earth foods, continuing the humans' attempts to find something compatible with Krell's biology. Behind Jack came Tom and Dr. Reed, followed by Agent Miller. Krell remained silent, as he had since his capture. His mission protocol for capture situations was clear. Reveal nothing. We know you understand us, Agent Miller said, pulling up a chair. Your devices translate our language. We've studied the technology we found in the forest. Dr. Reed stepped forward, holding one of Krell's communication relays. Fascinating design, much more advanced than ours in some ways. She placed it on a table, yet strangely outdated in others. This caught Krell's attention, though he tried not to show it. We've been wondering about that, Jack continued, noticing Krell's subtle reaction. Why would an advanced species use tracking systems that can be detected by our relatively primitive technology? Tom nodded, almost as if you expected us to be incapable of detecting it. The implication was clear, and Krell felt a chill through his body. Had they already guessed the truth? "Let me tell you what we think," Agent Miller said. "You're a scout, probably military, gathering intelligence for something bigger." He paused, watching Krell carefully. "An invasion, perhaps." Krell's upper heart skipped a beat, but he maintained his silence. "The thing is," Jack said, leaning forward, "you're not the first." This statement broke through Krell's resolve. "What?" The four humans exchanged glances, clearly satisfied to have finally gotten a response. "We've known about extraterrestrial observation for decades," Agent Miller explained. "Different species, different methods, but always the same purpose: assessment." Dr. Reed opened a tablet and showed Krell images of recovered alien technology, pieces from at least 3 different civilizations, none of them Drex. "We detected your ship entering our solar system 2 weeks ago," Tom added. "Standard procedure is to allow observation while monitoring the observer." Krell's mind raced. This contradicted everything in the Empire's intelligence. Humans were supposed to be unaware of other civilizations, their technology incapable of deep space detection. "I don't understand," Krell finally said. "Your civilization shows no signs of advanced space technology. Your vehicles, your energy systems, they're all primitive." Jack smiled. "Are they? Or is that what we want observers to see?" The revelation hit Krell like a physical blow. "You've been hiding your true capabilities. Smart species survive by not appearing threatening until they need to be," Agent Miller said matter-of-factly. "Earth history is full of examples. The prey that appears weak until the predator gets too close." Dr. Reed placed another device on the table, a small cube that Krell immediately recognized as a Drex data core. "We found this among your equipment," she said. "It contains your Empire's assessment of Earth and humanity. Quite interesting reading." "How did you access it?" Krell asked, unable to hide his shock. "That encryption is broken," Tom finished for him. "About 6 hours after we brought it here." Krell slumped in his seat. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. The Empire's century of observation and analysis, all the careful planning for invasion, based on a fundamental misunderstanding of humanity. "What happens now?" Krell asked. Jack's expression softened slightly. "That depends. We have questions. You have information. Cooperation would benefit everyone." "My ship will come looking for me," Krell warned, though he was no longer sure of anything. Agent Miller shook his head. "Your emergency beacon was detected and contained. As far as your people know, you're still on mission. But more importantly," Jack added, "we want your commanders to receive a very specific message when they do check on you." Krell looked from one human to another, seeing not the primitive beings described in the Empire's reports, but sophisticated, strategic thinkers who had been several steps ahead of him all along. "What message?" he asked. Agent Miller leaned forward, his voice quiet but intense. "That humans are not what they seem, and that anyone considering Earth as a target should reconsider very carefully." For the first time since arriving on this planet, Krell felt something he had never expected to feel toward humans. 14 days had passed since Krell's capture. The alien scout sat alone in a new room, larger, more comfortable, with a viewport that revealed a stunning mountain landscape. His status had shifted from prisoner to something closer to guest, though never without watchful eyes nearby. The door slid open, and Jack entered, carrying 2 containers of liquid. "Thought you might like to try this," Jack said, offering one to Krell. "Our scientists say it's compatible with your system. We call it coffee." Krell accepted the warm container cautiously. The humans had been surprisingly accommodating, answering his questions while asking many of their own. A strange exchange of information had developed between them. "Your commanders made contact an hour ago," Jack said, taking a seat across from Krell. They're expecting your scheduled report. Krell's four-fingered hand tightened around the container. What will happen if I don't respond? Eventually, they'll send someone to look for you. Maybe several someones. And you'll capture them too. Jack shook his head. We'd prefer to avoid that scenario. The door opened again, and Agent Miller entered with Tom. The agent placed a small device on the table, Krell's communication unit, fully restored. We've made no modifications, Miller said. You can verify that yourself. Krell examined the device carefully. You're allowing me to contact my ship. Why? Because we want you to tell them the truth, Jack said simply. Tom nodded. Your assessment of Earth is dangerously flawed. If your empire invades based on current intelligence, there will be conflict. Unnecessary conflict. Krell looked at the device, then back at the humans. During his captivity, he had learned things that contradicted everything he thought he knew about the species. Humans weren't just physically adaptable. They possessed psychological strengths that the Drex had never considered. Their history was filled with stories of smaller forces defeating larger ones through strategy and determination. Their fiction often featured scenarios of alien invasion, preparing their minds for possibilities the Drex thought humans couldn't even imagine. Most terrifying of all, humans seemed to thrive on challenge. Where the Drex sought efficiency and predictability, humans embraced chaos and improvisation. Your transmission window opens in 5 minutes, Miller said. What you say is up to you. The agent and Tom left the room, but Jack lingered. For what it's worth, Jack said quietly, I believe peaceful contact between our species is possible, but it has to start with truth. After Jack departed, Krell sat alone with his thoughts and the communication device. His duty to the Empire demanded he report that he had been captured, that Earth's defenses were stronger than expected, but still manageable with a full invasion force. But something deeper, a sense of responsibility that transcended his military oath, pushed him toward a different message. When the transmission window opened, Krell activated the device. Scout Krell reporting to command, he began formally. Report status, came the immediate response. Krell took a deep breath. Mission successful. I have completed my assessment of Earth and its dominant species. Transmit findings. Humans are not as they appear, Krell said carefully. Our intelligence has been systematically misleading. They have allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see. There was a pause before command responded. Explain. They detected our presence immediately. They tracked me using technologies we thought beyond their capabilities. They captured me using strategies that anticipated every move I would make. These are unexpected developments, command acknowledge, but not insurmountable with proper invasion force. That's where you're wrong, Krell said, his voice growing stronger. Humans knew about us long before we arrived. They'd been preparing, studying, waiting. What we perceived as technological backwardness is deliberate misdirection. He continued, describing everything he had learned, the humans' adaptability, their strategic thinking, their historical pattern of repelling invaders against overwhelming odds. Recommendation. Command asked when he finished. Krell didn't hesitate. Abort invasion plans immediately. Earth is not a viable target. Humans are not what they seem. They are far more dangerous. The silence that followed told Krell his message had been received. Whether it would be heeded remained to be seen. Outside his viewport, the sun set behind Earth's mountains, casting long shadows across the landscape. Krell watched the changing colors with new appreciation. This strange, beautiful world had taught him a valuable lesson. Never judge a species by appearances alone. Sometimes, the most dangerous predators are those that don't look threatening at all.